To this edition of Home Based, You Bet. This is a crazy time, and it's finally hit my family. My son just flew in from London last night, or from UK, where he's going to school. And, you know, by definition, he was traveling for 25 hours or so. And so people said, well, you're going to be self-quarantining, right? And I thought, oh my, exactly. That's what I've had to do. So here I am at home, and along with you, we're all in our homes. We're all in this together, dealing with this new normal. And I'm excited to be able to share with you some fantastic information tonight from two experts in the world of social media, because let's face it, we all are so aware that digital and virtual is the direction we've all gone, whether it's kids dealing with their kindergarten teacher, to parties being held virtually, to companies like us communicating with folks across the world, across the country on important topics. So great to have you on board, and let's get into it. You know, social media, digital strategies, communicating, being aware of what's possible in the whole social universe is very, very important. And my first guest, John Oates, is with JPO Digital Strategies. He's out of the New York area. He's been there, done that, been playing in the world of social media pretty much since the beginning. And his big claim to fame is joining the Oz, Dr. Oz, that program, that television show, which of course had millions and millions of followers. He ended up running that for multiple years. And so he has a full understanding of every aspect of what it takes to deal with, successfully leverage, deal with all the little minutia points that you need to do successfully if you want to play in the world of social media. You can make it complicated, or you can make it simple. And John's here to help us dissect some of that. And then in a little bit, we're going to have Kathy Rodriguez come on. She is a senior presidential director, and she was able to achieve that rank in, if not the fastest, virtually the fastest time that anybody ever has at LifeWave, and that was in 18 weeks. So she has used, and continues to use social media as one of her core tools for being able to grow her business. So she'll be on in a little bit as well. But first, John Oates, why don't you share your screen? Let's see your handsome face, and let's get into it. How are you, sir?
Hey there, guys. Great to be here.
John, you know, I appreciate you checking in. I know you're sequestered. You've got your family back there, and sometimes the internet's going to give us a little bit of a trouble, but let's deal with it and go for it, because I know the audio is strong, and you do have this interesting background in social media, and you have pretty much seen it all. So before you start sharing your screen and go into a couple of specifics, what would be your overarching way that you position this great opportunity, really, that everybody has, where we're in our homes? Let's get good at social media, huh?
Yeah, no, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's when we first did this social media training just a few weeks ago, the world was an entirely different place, and we were talking about social media as an option or as a nice to have, something that you can do if you'd like to do it, and that's really not the world that we live in anymore. You know, it's really a necessary tool if we want to continue to talk to people and spread the business and do all the things that we would normally do face to face. And I know that can be scary for some people, especially if you're not comfortable with social media. And, you know, one of the things I really want to stress is that, you know, this is just a different form of how you talk normally. It's just, you know, your message is going to be the same. Social media is just the megaphone. So there are some best practices to keep in mind, the nuances, and we can talk through those. But I've always been a huge believer in social media, you know, in my 11 years, and especially now in the situation that we're in, to have a forum where we can continue to talk to people no matter where we are, no matter where they are, in so many different formats, whether it's live like we're doing right now, or just through content that we're sharing on our platforms. The connection can still be there. And that's what's really important.
So get into it. You know, we've got 35, 40 minutes, and I want to spend a chunk of time with you. So where would you start? What do you want to show us? What do you want to share first?
So,
go for it.
Let me share my screen here. And
sure.
I wanted to take you guys through this.
All right.
You know, one of the big things to keep in mind is that, you know, especially if you're new to social media, I want to demystify this a little bit. And I think if you approach it with this in mind, and this is one of my favorite quotes about social media: content is fire, social media is gasoline. And I think that speaks to the scale that we're talking about with social media. You're going to share the same message. You're just going to do it on a much higher level, on a bigger scale. So if you look at it from that perspective, I think it kind of puts it into a nice lens of how you should be looking at this.
Okay.
With the spread of COVID-19, like we've talked about, there's a shift in how all of us communicate in our personal lives, in our business lives, and especially for a network marketing company, a company that relies on people communicating with their individual networks to share a product and a business opportunity. Social media is no longer an option. It's the standard. It's what you have to rely on. And I think the nice thing about LifeWave is that, the company's done a lot of work to make sure that that story can easily be told through the Facebook page, the Instagram page, the InTouch app. You really have that story at your fingertips.
And it is a heck of a story, isn't it? It is a heck of a story.
It's a heck of a story. It's very easy to tell. There's a lot of companies that don't have what LifeWave has. From the science to the business opportunity to the products, it's a great story. The impact is clear. So, just understanding how to share it is important, and always coming from an authentic place is vital. On social media, if you're not being authentic, people are going to sniff that out. So, don't look at this as like a sales pitch. You got to look at it like an authentic conversation with somebody that you trust.
Okay.
And that kind of that's our first main point on every social platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. I imagine you guys aren't using those a ton, because I've been doing social media as a career for 11 years and I don't use those a ton. But no matter what the social media platform is, if you're focused on telling a compelling story, it's going to resonate. So rely on those LifeWave social channels, rely on the InTouch app. That's going to really get you what you need, and make sure that you're adding that personal touch to it to show how it affects you personally.
And when you think about storytelling, and what is that phrase? Facts tell and stories sell. The bottom line is, it is about emotionally engaging people, and you use the word authentic, but this whole dynamic of being real, and people can get into the details. How's your technology work? Well, explain it to me. I don't understand. It's easy to get caught up in trying to explain the science. But, Chuck Michael has always said, I'm not quite so sure how it works, but let me tell you what happened to me. And so what are you doing? You're into
Right.
telling the story. So, and you're just saying the platform of social media is an incredibly effective tool for doing that, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, once people get to that point where they say, how does the science work? How does the product work? How does the business work? I kind of see those all as intrigue questions. They've already watched what you had to say or looked at what you've posted, and they're intrigued. And that's where you take it to a one-to-one form of communication and make sure that you're messaging them back, or you're jumping on the phone and you're taking it to that next level. But what you post initially should always come from a storytelling impact perspective, because those authentic pieces of content and those authentic posts that are going out to your friends and family are what's going to resonate the most.
Okay. All right, good.
So that's the cornerstone. In terms of timing, there's a little bit of a debate on when the best timing is. And, you'll hear me talk about this at the end. Experimenting is key. But if you're just getting started, 1 to 6 p.m. tends to be the best time to post. So when you share your stuff, make sure it's in that window, and try not to post more than twice per day about LifeWave. You don't want people getting exhausted, tuning out. You want this to be an exciting thing when they see it. You want them to be interested, and that interest can wane if they're getting inundated with stuff that you're sharing.
Okay.
On the content side, if you're talking about the products or you're talking about the business opportunity, you want to make sure it doesn't feel like a sales pitch. It goes back to that authenticity. You want to make sure that you're weaving it into your lifestyle, showing it how it impacts you. That really has the best impact on people. So make sure it's natural, make sure it's authentic on any platform that you're sharing on.
Yeah, and I look forward to talking to Kathy about that, because I'm sure she's done this so much in very specific ways. Because it is easy to kind of fall into that route. Well, hey, have you heard about LifeWave? Well, it's this new science that does this, and there you are. You got a sales pitch, and you're saying you want to try to avoid that. And I look forward to hearing more from Kathy about some of the ways in which that can be done.
Yeah, I think Kathy's input's going to be hugely valuable, because this is somebody that's really done it and really has that functional experience with LifeWave and how to use social media to build the business. But yeah, I think too often people fall into that trap of thinking that they're on a soapbox. They just got to shout the opportunity and shout the products. And you got to remember, you're talking to your friends and family. You're speaking to people that know you. So that authenticity is what's going to make people pique that interest. And then you can take it to a more salesy place of, hey, let me jump on the phone with you, tell you about the products, tell you about the opportunity.
Sure. Okay, good.
In terms of connection, when I used to work at VaynerMedia, which was founded by Gary Vaynerchuk, who some of you might know, is one of the biggest guys in social media. We used to say, no engagement left behind. These platforms, they're made for connection and conversation and sharing. And just like you would in person, if somebody walked up to you and said, hey, how does this product work? What's the business opportunity? What's the science behind it? If somebody's saying that to you on social media, you got to respond back. That's a crucial step in converting somebody from somebody who's semi-interested in something that you've posted to somebody who's now a prospect or a lead. So one-to-one communication is crucial. Don't let any engagements fall behind, and make sure that you're engaging with the people that talk to you.
And so what happens if someone asks a question today, right, at 10 after 6 Pacific time, and you don't get back to them for 5 days with an answer? That sends the wrong message, doesn't it? Versus you've got into a habit of checking and seeing what's going on always on your platform and where you play in social, and you check every 15 minutes, a half hour. How would you characterize the timeliness and the distance between a comment and you come back?
Yeah, it's a great question. You definitely want to be timely, but I always stress that people should do what works for them. Whether it's how they use social media or the social media platforms that they use. You don't want to make this a burden and then you fall off and you stop doing it. So if checking once a day and responding in bulk works for you, great. If checking every half an hour and responding in real time works, that's ideal. But if you're responding every 5, 6, 7 days, that's not an actively managed community. People are going to kind of tune out, and that interest might have waned in that 5 days that you've waited to respond. So make sure that you're being as active as you possibly can be. And remember, if this is new to you, that's a learned muscle, and you got to exercise it. It's not something that you're going to get on the first day. Understanding how to post consistently, respond consistently is something that you're going to have to get good at over time if you're new to it. But just like anything else, practice makes perfect. This will start to become more natural, because at the end of the day, these are intuitive platforms. They're just made for conversation. So the more you use it, the better you're going to get.
Someone's asking, just picking up a question, 1 to 6 p.m., which time zone? Well, 1 to 6 p.m. where you are. And if it's 3 in the morning where you intend to somehow get a hold of somebody and social, well, that's the wrong time, right? So it's really relative to where you are in terms of the time zone when you talk about 1 to 6, correct?
Right, exactly. It's just a general rule. But again, I can't stress enough, it comes down to experimenting, because what works for my followers might not work for Jim's followers, might not work for Kathy's followers.
Okay.
So stick to that as a guideline, but mix around your posting times. And that brings us to our next point, and that's experimenting. I think too often, especially when people are new to social media, they get a crash course like you're watching right now, and they think, hey, John knows what he's talking about. I'm going to do everything that he said and nothing else. And I'm telling you to not do everything that I say and nothing else. Experiment, play with the content, play with how many times you post per day. Know that everything that I've said to you is a general best practice, but everybody's community is different. Timing is going to be different, frequency, response strategy. So you really have to make it your own, because you're really representing yourself on these platforms. LifeWave is a part of your brand, not the other way around. And you want to make sure you customize it to what works best for you and the people that follow you.
I love it. Okay, it's interesting. There is a separation, isn't it? It's my social community. It's not LifeWave's. It's mine. But I have to be bringing LifeWave to the party, talking about it, sharing some information, having fun with it, and that kind of thing, huh?
Right. I think it's important to think of yourself as your own little personal brand. And as you grow and as you connect with people that might be outside of your direct network of friends and family, they're going to fall in love with that person, not the person that's talking about a company. So LifeWave is going to play a bigger role if it's a little bit more subtle. And if you're
also, John, forgive me for interrupting, but you can also, there's metrics that are available, right? There's ways to kind of dial in and get some information from the platform in which you're playing, right? It isn't like you get to know nothing. No, they actually will share information as long as you know where to click, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get a very quick idea once you start experimenting with this of what works and what doesn't. The best things to look at for that are the reach of the post, how many people is it reaching? And we look at that metric very closely, because if it's reaching more people, it means that Facebook's algorithm, which determines, who sees what, says, hey, this post is doing well, we're going to show it to more people. So that's a great metric to look at. Comments, likes, those are all things to tell you, hey, this post is working. I should be doing more of this. And that's going to help you really dial in what should be the core of your social content strategy.
Okay. Why don't you go off? Is there any more slides you want to share?
No, I think that was the last slide. And I think that, one of the things that we really love about LifeWave, just to go back to what we talked about initially, is the story that you guys have. That's what's most compelling. And especially now when everybody is kind of, trapped, down here in my basement and, we're all at home and we're in front of screens more than normal. It's a great time to share that story. And you have it, nicely buttoned up on the social media platforms and through the app. So I think with a little bit of experimenting and a few best practices, it should be very easy to use that as an alternative to these one-to-one conversations you're used to having.
All right, why don't you come back on screen here, because it is interesting how you talk about 11 years being in social media, and gosh, you go back 11 years, and I don't even did people know how to spell social media? I mean, that was really, when did social media start? And people that are just discovering it now, it's interesting, isn't it, that it's this whole new world to them, and yet it's been around for a decent amount of time, huh?
Yeah, no, it definitely has. I mean, I think Facebook started in about 2004. I was a freshman in college then, and we were one of the first schools to get it in Boston. I went to Boston College, and then it was just a place to post pictures, connect with friends, and by the time I graduated and got my first full-time job in social media in 2009, it had completely changed. And Facebook was the biggest, baddest one, and then Twitter was just starting, and Twitter had its rise, and then Instagram. And it's always there's always been changes, and there's always been like nuances that we had to understand for clients to make sure that they were successful. But no matter what the platform, it always came down to the story and the community management. Tell a compelling story, get people responding, make sure you're responding back to them and driving them to a final destination, whether that's site visits or purchases or whatever. But it's a very simple formula that is applied on every platform. It's just a matter of how you apply it.
Perfect, John. Thank you. Stand by it. I want to bring on Kathy Rodriguez. Kathy, are you there? Come join the conversation. I know I earlier talked about your incredible accomplishments here at LifeWave. Great to have you on the program. How are you?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for joining us. And it looks like, gee, don't get wet there. There's an ocean crashing behind you. I'm not certain what I'm looking at there. Wait a minute.
That is actually Pigeon Point. On the third week of being locked down, we went for a drive. And I found that lighthouse an hour and a half from my house, and I didn't even know it was here.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I took that picture. Yeah. So I have it on my screen.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. Earlier, I talked about your great success, Senior Presidential Director here at LifeWave. And take a moment, John, you're going to love this. From the standpoint of Kathy, you don't characterize yourself as a network marketing person. I mean, you got a whole background before you came to LifeWave. Talk about, just give us a sense of who you are and how you discovered LifeWave. How do you kind of encapsulate this really interesting story? Because folks, it's entirely organic that she's here in the first place. Tell us, Kathy.
Well, I'm a real estate broker. I've been a real estate broker for 20 years. And I have done some network marketing, but that was back in 2011, 2012 in the fall of the real estate. I used that as a way to kind of give us some money to make ends meet, but I hadn't really done anything since 2012. And somebody introduced me to the patch because I have issues with my neck, and I fell in love with the product. So I sent it off to my girlfriend, some text messages, and we all know her, it's Onyx Cole. And I said, hey, explain the technology of this to me, because she's very wise when it comes to light therapies and photobiomodulation. And after her looking at it and we talked about it for a week, she just said, send me your link. And I said, I don't have a link. And she said, well, you better get one. And I really thought about it. I almost didn't do it. My husband said, no, you need to do this. He goes, I just have a feeling about it. You can find
part of that. Forgive me for interrupting, but part of that reason, when he's saying you really got to do this, is because you went through a metamorphosis change relative to pain that you've been suffering for decades, right?
Right. And he noticed that change in me. And I mean, to the point where he was checking me at night because I was finally sleeping so soundly, he thought I was not alive. And that's a true story.
Wow.
So he's like, you got to do this. He goes, you're so passionate already about the product. Why not do something, you know, and put yourself out there, because you know you're going to tell everybody about it anyway. So I grabbed a credit card and bought an account, and that was 8 months ago, and it just has been a blessing on so many different ways. So.
Well, it's a fantastic story, and you like I said earlier, you achieved our top rank at LifeWave in an incredibly fast time of only 18 weeks. And you know, people have to look at that and marvel. And I know you're great about giving credit to a team that, you know, everybody's in it together, and you've achieved incredible success very, very quickly. And social media has played a role, hasn't it? I mean, you've really either you learned fast or you'd been doing it before. So how is it that you've come to be so good at it?
When I got into the real estate market, I have a business degree with a minor in marketing anyways, but I was the first single agent to have an individual website 20 years ago, and everybody thought I was crazy. So I remember the night, I was thinking about this when John said his, you know, I remember the night that we actually joined Twitter. My husband and I were watching Michael Phelps win those golds, and he kept tweeting, and we're like, what the heck is tweeting? And so we Googled it, and we both got Twitter accounts. So we had Twitter before we had Facebook. And from there, a few weeks later, we found Facebook. And so that was in 2008. So it's been 12 years. I've had my social media accounts, and the followings has just naturally grown. I've never paid for following per se, or bought likes, or whatever it is that people do. It's just a 12 years of being very consistent. When you're a real estate person in real estate, you go to a lot of trainings, and everybody has a social media training. So I've been to several, and you know, always found things that I could apply to what I was doing, what worked for me, what didn't work for me. And that's what I tell everybody all the time. There's so much information out there. Learn as much as you can and apply what works, just like John said. But the biggest mistake I see, and I think John would agree with this, is people think social media is, you're going to get you're going to post something, and immediately you're going to get a response, and you're going to get something off of it. So when people come to me, my team in real estate, the agents that I coach, why isn't it working? Why am I getting a response? And I'm like, well, did you notice if anybody liked your post? Well, no. What does that do? You've got to engage back. That's the biggest thing I think people do wrong. They throw something out there and then they don't engage. Social media is a two-way street. It's a socializing two ways with your following out there. It's so important to make sure that you're social on social media, not just posting.
And John, you talked about that. I mean, that she's echoing this. It is a give and take. Like you said, it's a conversation using the platform, right?
Right. No, absolutely. And you know, Kathy really hit it on the head. I've in the consulting side, whether it was with, you know, with brands or celebrities or whatever, you know, people do look at it like this magic sauce of, well, I posted, you know, why am I not at 1 million followers? Why am I not verified? Why aren't we selling any products? And it's like anything else. I always say it's like walking into the gym and saying like, all right, well, I did a workout. Where's my six pack? Like it doesn't work like that. You have to give it time. You have to build that audience and building a community and building rapport with that community where they take you seriously and they want to have an action or take an action based on something that you said. Takes time to build that relationship. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk, my former boss, wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And basically what that means is how you respond to your social media followers. You know, it has to be a lot of give, building that rapport, building that confidence and that relationship. And then you can ask them to do something. But it doesn't happen initially. And there's a lot of work that goes into it before you get any kind of return out of it.
Well, you know, as we were preparing for doing this, I asked Kathy to kind of put together I don't know if you want to call it a punch list or whatever. And I said, you know, maybe the top 10 tips or something like that. So she comes along with this, folks. You know, she said, here you go. And I thought to myself, all right, that's a lot of very, very specific stuff. So Kathy, plow through this, take us through this, help people understand some of these key points that you use. And John, I'm going to let you drop away. I know it's late, it's East Coast time, your time. So as we get into this, thanks so much for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks for your contribution.
That's my pleasure, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, Kathy.
Meeting you. Bye-bye.
Talk soon, guys. Thanks, Jim.
You bet. So Kathy,
I went through the first one. Just make sure that you're social. When I say that is I already saw a question. Somebody says, how much time do you spend on it? And I'm actually really good. I don't like to spend more than about 30 minutes a day on social media. And I actually time block my time to do that. So I've got 15, 20 minutes every morning and 15, 20 minutes every evening. And you can really do it in that amount of time. If you're spending a ton more time than that, you have to look at your time spent versus your reward, and you will find that you get sucked in. So if you just block out a certain amount of time, if you're just getting started, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon or the evening, don't do it any longer than that. But just make sure that you notice when your audience is communicating with you, who's liked your posts. Even a like is a source of communication. Send them a quick message and say, hey, I really appreciated the fact that you gave my post a like. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. Especially if it was something on your business. But what I like to post, especially on my personal page, is personal stuff. If I post about my dogs, Jim, I get hundreds of likes. And just like John said, that ranks you higher with the API with Facebook, the algorithm. And the more likes they see that your page is getting, then even when you post something about your business, it's going to show up more on other people's pages. And you will always get more likes and more interaction when people are learning about the personal side of you. Now, that being said, they don't need to know what you eat for dinner every night. They don't need to know for, every little thing that you're doing. But if something special is going on, or you have a special birthday or a birthday cake you bought for a family member, they like to see things like that. People like to see that, or something cute your dog did, something cute your baby's doing. I don't have babies anymore, so my dogs get me a lot of social media traffic.
So let me ask you something. So when you were first doing this and you were getting your feet wet, you're getting your sea legs, you started to understand things like that, it must have been a ton of trial and error as you started to try to figure it out. But you talked about also getting some training. You went to some seminars, you educated yourself, didn't you?
Yes, I did. In fact, I live just east of the Bay Area. So I have Yahoo, Google, Facebook, Zoom, LinkedIn, Twitter, all within an hour and a half of me. So when I first started buying keyword search placement, stuff like that, I would go straight to the Bay Area and go to their seminars. And then as this grew, they became more local. We could go to them right here in our own town. So there are a lot, and right now, obviously everything's Zoom. There's a lot of free trainings out there, but it does take a lot of training. And I did sit in on a lot of training.
Okay. Fair enough. And it gets back to, self-improvement, self-education, personal improvement. And because in this business, right, it's got to be a continuum of that. And whether it's in social media, whether it's in, firing up conversations, whether it's in enrolling and learning some of the basics. Think about what Eric Worre does, the 7 keys to being a network marketing pro. I mean, there's basics that you can do. And as we talk about social media, you've figured out some basics. What else is on your list?
Schedule your updates. Like I said, stay consistent so your audience knows when to look for your posting. And believe me, you will find that people are kind of cyber stalking you. You may think they're not noticing, but they're watching everything you post. And then all of a sudden they're going to come and contact you and say, when you posted this, it related to that. When you posted that, it related to that. So if you stay consistent, you will find that those people watching you, even though you don't think they are, will actually come out of the woodwork and want to know more about your business and what it is you're doing. The other thing about it is, if you have a great positive life and you're always positive on Facebook, people are attracted to that and they want to be a part of that. My husband and I like to spend a lot of time in Pismo Beach. So we get people that ask us, what do you guys do that you can actually spend so much time out of town? And so I tell them I'm self-employed, I do real estate. I do, I'm doing LifeWave. And with that being, my husband is a contractor, but he, gets a lot of vacation. So, when you have a positive lifestyle, people want more of what you have. So I, caution against anybody getting negative on their Facebook or, having a meltdown on social media. It's not going to help your business later.
Well, we know, don't we, that positive attracts. I mean, exactly. Right? It just makes good sense. Great input on that one. What else? What's this? Check out other social media profiles. What do you mean by that?
Well, you want to keep up with what others are posting. You want to, when I tell people all the time, you're not stealing it, but you can borrow it. And so let's say, especially if somebody on my team posts something great or a testimonial, I'm going to share that. You don't really necessarily want to copy and paste it, but share it right from their page to your page, because not only are you telling your followers, look, here's another version of somebody enjoying this product, but it gives them validity because it shows them that somebody else is actually talking about the same thing that Kathy is. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So many times people are afraid to share what somebody else is sharing or what LifeWave shares because, oh, they might lose that contact. Your people that are following you are going to contact you when they're interested. So it makes sense to see what your other people within LifeWave or your business or within your, maybe even network marketing. I ask people all the time, hey, take care of our other network marketers or people that are home-based businesses. Drop your link here. Interact with people that are doing the same thing that you are and share their posts. Or if it's something that was just a positive quote, there's no harm in plugging that picture into your social media and sharing that. So just keep up with what they're posting. Don't copy, but create your own post that's relevant to that. If you see that maybe that person's getting a lot, they have that conversation, you can have the same conversation on your page without completely copying it. So just see what's relevant, what's working for other people, stay plugged into other people on your team or other people that are doing what you're doing. And share those things so other people can do it. Now, if everybody in LifeWave was really kind of paying attention and liking and sharing each other's posts, Facebook would go crazy over what LifeWave was posting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Say, by the way, before we go any further, several folks have said, hey, can I see that list again? Well, needless to say, so this will be posted on our YouTube channel, number one. Number two, we're in Facebook Live. So this will be available there. And you can, go backwards and see that list again. Maybe I'll put it up one more time toward the end, but just want to let people know because they're digging the content, Kathy, and thank you for that. Now, talk about the word curate. Okay, it's awfully easy to not really know what that word means. What's meant by curate content to share? What do you mean?
Well, you got to think about what you're going to share. If you're not going to pay somebody to come up with content, you've got to always be thinking about, can I share that on social media? Is that something that would, attract a lot of attention? So I have a couple apps that I've paid for, and they're not much. They're like $9.99 for the app. I think one of them's called Daily. I'll send them over to you. Maybe you can send them out. But so when I get those, when there's a quote that I like, I save it to my phone to make sure that I can share it later. You guys can look at my stories. You can find me at facebook.com/brokerlady. And you just always, when you see something that catches your attention, you got to be thinking about, I need to share that, right? So save it to your photo album or something for the next time you post. Because if it's not always kind of in the back of your mind, you're going to go crazy trying to figure out what to post.
So by the word curate specifically, that means what?
Create, basically.
Create. Got it. Okay, cool. All right. Advocacy. Make it easy for your team to share.
Right. So when you're posting things, you want to make sure you're posting public. If you're posting about your business, make sure that post is public, because then your team can actually share that post. So if I post a testimonial, my page is public. I tell people all the time, my page is not private. My page is public. I keep my page public, but I also keep it very tight, meaning people can't tag me and it won't show up on my page unless I approve it, right? Because I want to make sure my page is good for all people to see, right? So make sure it's public and let your people come into your page and share what you're sharing. If you have a link in there, they may not want to, but if you're posting positive content, let people share that, because Facebook will recognize how many shares your posts are getting as well. The more people that are sharing, they're going to rank your page higher because you have a higher algorithm with Facebook. I don't know how many times I had people say, I'm being censored because this, or they'll post, I think I've been censored because nobody's seeing my post. Click, post your name or say hi if you see this post. They're doing that because somebody in a class told them. The more people you get to comment on your post is going to create more. That's that person's way of. I don't do things like that.
Right.
Go look at my page. I don't do that, but I will. If I feel like I've not been getting a lot of engagement, it's a perfect time to throw a picture up of Jax, my dog. So everybody,
one of the questions in chat is, what's an example? So what's a typical post you might do? And I guess nothing's really typical, but when you're talking about LifeWave, give us an example of what you would post or what you've posted earlier today, this kind of thing, about talking about LifeWave in some authentic, relaxed, interesting way that people don't feel like you're selling. What's an example?
Just a testimony. find a company testimony, either in the, I get them off of a couple of the groups, the LifeWave group, the LifeWave corporate community.
Sure.
Just, if you can't share out of that group, because sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, then just copy the data, save the picture and repost it and just say, this is another great testimony. One of the things that I'm so passionate about this product is how well it's working for so many people. That's the best way for product. But if you go through my page, you'll notice I don't post about LifeWave very often. In fact, I'll be honest with you, because of my real estate business, I wasn't posting on my personal page about LifeWave at all. I did it all on a health and wellness page that I have that doesn't necessarily even identify me. So there's different ways. It depends on what you need. But when this all happened and we were shelter in place, I had a very emotional video that said, I'm coming out of the closet because this is all I have right now. And I told you, I was honest about that. We had 4 incomes before this shelter in place happened. And, my household went from 4 incomes to 1. So I just told my personal following that, yes, I'm a real estate broker, but I have this business, and thank God for that, because it's all I have now. And oh my God, the influx of people that private messaged me, thanked me for my candor, thanked me for being honest, raw, and unemotional, because I was an emotional mess that day. And, asked me, so what are you doing? How can I do it? What does it cost to get started? So people want to see all of you. You just have to be okay to get it out there.
Yeah. Well, that word authentic, sometimes that can be twisted in a way that people don't necessarily know exactly what that means. But this is my life. This is what I've posted about. Here are my dogs, the whole bit. So they get a sense of who you are as a person, and they realize this person cares, is committed, clearly has something going on, says a lot of interesting things. And so that personality, your style of being shines through, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And people get to know you because they see the things that you're doing, like our Pismo trips. We love to spend time in the sand. People will message, oh my God, they may be in Southern California, but we're in Northern California. But they're like, we go to Pismo every Thanksgiving. What pool do you camp by? And we've met people that way, because of our social media somehow got connected. They realize that we vacation at the same time in the same place, and it's created lifelong connections like that. So by doing those positive things. Now, if you're on social media and you're one of those people that when they're having a bad day, you just let everybody know, it's not somebody they're going to probably want to connect with. So I say, be very positive about what you're doing, and we all have down times in our lives. Just keep those to yourself, and let's not be social about those things. But you will find your social media will grow. And I have a following of about 40,000 people between Facebook, my pages, my personal page, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So and I don't do the TikTok or Snapchat yet. So, I don't know that
let me ask you this. So, some people could easily say, Kathy, well, wait a second. I am not Kathy Rodriguez. She clearly has the gift of gab. She's been around social media for a long time, and I'm just discovering it last week. I don't have the Pismo Beach nearby. Gee, I don't think I could even come close to doing what she's managed to accomplish. So what do you say to someone who looks at what you've accomplished? Oh, I can't do that. How would you position that? How would you characterize and go back to them and say, well, wait a second, sure you can. And here's how. What would you say? Your
personal life has amazing things in it, and you just have to identify those things. And everybody has their own story that needs to be told. And when you are, no matter where you're at, if you live in a small town in the country, you take your dogs for a walk on a country road, that's a post. Hey, I'm walking, just throw that camera on live and, just put it on your story and say, beautiful day, walking my dog down a country road. I love to watch the sunset. Everybody's got something that they do that they love. That's all you have to do. Your workouts, maybe you're proud of yourself for burning that extra 500 calories or doing the 10,000 steps a day. Let people know about those accomplishments. People want that for themselves. So you may motivate them to do something positive too. So that's all it's about is everybody's got something that they're doing every single day that they can share a little bit of light, a little bit of refreshness, a little bit of, feeling good, especially right now. It's so important, right?
Yeah. And Paula Shaw, who co-hosts with me on LifeWave Now regularly, she used this word, comparison, comparanoia, right? It's so easy to put ourselves in a box and be insecure about, well, I can't do that. They're too good. I could never live up to that. But as you just said, every person is a unique individual. There's lots of idiosyncratic dynamics going on with all of us. And it's that you over time learn to share some of that stuff in a relaxed, confident way. Probably easier said than done, but anybody can do it, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What else? You talk about engage with MVPs. What do you mean?
You know, when I learned this when I was in a network marketing company in 2011 and 2012. And it's so important for those of you that are out there building a business right now, is that you learn that you have to reach up. And everybody has a way that they rate themselves subconsciously. So I'm going to say this kind of slow so people can record it or write it down. Rate yourself from 1 to 10 at an honest level. And when I was asked that, I put myself at a 7 or 8 by the guy that was teaching this. And he said, and he, asked if anybody said 7 or above, stand up. And I stood up, and he said, who would you talk to if I said you could only ask and tell about your business at 8s, 9s, and 10s? If you're already a 7 or 8. So who would be your 9 and 10? So I named off doctors, lawyers that I know, people that are highly successful, stockbrokers. And he said, then I want you to stop recruiting to the people that are 1 through 6, 1 through 7. And I want you to only go after the 8s, 9s, and 10s in your life. And that's when my network marketing business changed for me back then. And I basically did the same thing here. I reached out to, an amazing person, friend of mine for eight years, and said, hey, what do you think about this product? Not really thinking she'd come out of retirement to go to work, but that was definitely reaching up, wasn't it? So when I say engage with those MVPs, those that you respect, highlight them, engage with them on your page, edify them, build them up, but it also builds you up at the same time, if that makes sense. So if you have, a medical professional that you happen to be connected with and you see a post that they post, don't be afraid of that. Give them, edify them, say, oh my God, I love your post. You're amazing. I love the work you're doing. I heard what you did for my friend. Edify that person. And then you're going to create that relationship with them. And they're going to pay more attention to what you're doing to potentially get involved in your business. Now, if you just blanketly sent them spam them with a link, they're probably not going to give you any attention. But if you engage with them, build that relationship, those MVPs, those people that you would say are your level or higher, you're going to actually find that you're going to have those type of people join your business.
Yeah, I've over the transom, this phrase, success association, right? And in fact, developing relationships with people that know more than you do, because in the end, you learn, you get pulled upwards. So that's a fantastic piece of advice right there. And then you talk about follow back those who follow you. So I guess that just literally start following them as well, correct?
Right. Yeah, because it's again, this is a two-way street. So if somebody follows you and you're not already following them, as long as it's appropriate. I mean, let's face it, we all have people we follow go, oh gosh, why is that person following me? But for the most part, I think 80-90% of the time, it's going to be somebody that's going to be beneficial to your business or somebody that you'll want to engage in conversation with, hopefully, then follow that person back. There are times it's probably not appropriate to do that, but really look at it. If it's somebody that's, wow, this is an awesome person, I love what they're saying, follow them back because they're looking for engagement just like you are. So it's reciprocal. It's two ways. So it's a two-way platform. So if they're supporting you, support them.
Gets back to the conversation, gets back to the give and take, right? All those types of things. All righty. And number 10 here, which is, we weren't in necessarily any particular order, but connect with one new person. Is that a day, a week?
A day. Try to build your audience. So if you're connecting with one new person, a quality person every single day, just go out there. There used to be, I don't know if they do it anymore, but I remember when I was building back in 2010 or 2011, 2012, a lot of my team got put in Facebook jail. And I'm like, how do you get put in Facebook jail? I'd already had quite a bit following, but everybody started friend requesting somebody, just friend. And Facebook would shut you down. You'd be put in jail, couldn't talk to anybody. Don't do that. I don't know if they do that anymore, but don't go out there and blanket just sending friend requests that have no value or meaning. Make sure that you have friends in common before you send a friend request. But if you have somebody, Facebook's great about it. This is a friend suggestion. And you look at that person and you have 40 friends in common, send them a friend request. You guys have like 40 friends in common. So, that's a pretty good, they're going to accept that friend request. Don't send more than 1 or 2 a day to try to connect with those people, because you don't want to get shut down. But, that's how you build your community out there, is by building your friends that are connected to you within the social media.
Well, I'm sure if we wanted to, we could go on for another hour and you'd have another 10 tips, but I know you put some thought into these 10, because clearly they've made a difference in your success. And I know everybody who's on this call, everybody who's Zooming right now, is really appreciative of you taking the time, being so generous, sharing what you've learned in the way that you have. And so good on you, Kathy. Well done. And it's great to hear you, the enthusiasm, and clearly there's a reason why you're having success. And I know that people are going to absolutely go to school on this particular broadcast, because there's a ton of stuff here. And thank you very much for sharing it.
No problem. I enjoyed it a lot. It's great being here for the LifeWave community.
Fantastic. And if I were to ever to call you and say, hey, you want to come back and do this again, 30 days, would you say yes?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you need me.
Okay. Okay, we got you on tape. Hey, that's fantastic. Kathy, thank you very much. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jim. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. So folks, there you go. Think about it. She took the time. She's been there, done that in a way that clearly she's had success. And she shared it in a way that, there it is. So be sure to listen to this again. It'll be, it's on Facebook for sure. We'll post it on YouTube in the next 24 hours or so. Those of you that registered, you'll definitely get a copy of this coming back out at you. So spend some time and learn from it, because clearly, and even if you have some trepidation, you're not so sure, should I be doing this? Well, what do you got to lose, right? What do you have to lose? And while we're all stuck in our rooms and stuck in our small offices and home or whatever, take the time to improve yourself and just try some things. Get outside your comfort zone. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but often the rewards go way beyond what you ever could have imagined. So hope you've enjoyed it. Look, couple things to let you know about. Remember, we've got that app, which has our LifeWave in Touch, which has a special area. We just put, I think, 5 new posts, 5 new assets that you can post, that when you post them and someone clicks on it, and there's an opportunity for them to fill in their name and contact information, and that goes right back to you. So there's a way to use social with our app that is powerful and a terrific tool. So remember to turn to LifeWave in Touch and get to know it better as well. And the other thing is, we're going to be announcing a speaker series that we're going to fire up in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It'll start. We have pulled together, we're in the middle of finishing up our arrangement with 5 or 6 nationally known speakers who speak on a variety of the types of things, the fantastic, powerful, positive mind food that we all can use all the time, but with some specifics of what can you do in this environment where you cannot go out and spend a lot of time with people. You cannot be in groups and crowds, but you can communicate with people from where we sit right now, just like I am with you. So that'll be announced in the next, I suspect we'll announce it in the next 10 days, 2 weeks, and probably, what's the date? Probably by around the 1st of May or so, beginning in May. We'll go 8 weeks, once a week, Wednesdays at 6. LifeWave Now is going to be pushed back a couple of months so that we can bring you this special series. So be looking forward to that announcement. And thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hope you got something out of it. I suspect you did. And we look forward to doing more of these types of broadcasts where you can count on us to deliver information that you can use. That's what it's really all about. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll be looking for you down the line. And as that famous sales trainer always said, and I love to say it, we'll see you at the top. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.